no defense is 200% impregnable. In a different context, what happened in 9/11, what happened recently when Hamas attacked, because antagonist has to succeed just once. It's like a bowler, he has to take a wicket. The batsman has to succeed all the time. The Navy's role as a spearhead of Atmanirbharta. See, what I can tell you is that the country learned a lot from 26/11. As I have written in an article, it was for us, just as Pearl Harbor was a day of infamy for the Americans, 26/11 was for us our day of infamy, And a lot of people make it seem like it was in some ways a failure somewhere in this one. They forget that the terrorists had actually come on an Indian ship, having hijacked that ship. So it is not that they had come on some foreign vessel. They had come on an Indian fishing vessel, having hijacked it and then killed the captain. They used that ship to navigate to Bombay, and then off Bombay, I'm saying this must not be lost sight of, that maritime basically what I'm trying to suggest is maritime security is a 24/7 job, because the sea doesn't have barbed wires or walls or anything that you can build as permanent defenses. The seas are vast. There is no way that every inch of the sea can be covered. So you have to do a lot of measures, which includes having greater radar coverage, greater surveillance, more time spent at sea by your people, greater information exchange between agencies, all that. But again, if you were to look at it from what has happened since then I think the country has done several things good. One is that, consequent to that, the Navy had all along been saying that the maritime world has several government agencies, and we must find a mechanism for them to tango together. They were all operating in their own silos, so to say. And I think after 26/11, this fact was recognized. The Navy was made the overall in charge. The C&C of the command were also made in charge of C&C coastal defense, So now, under that charter, coordination with all the agencies, with Navy as a key stakeholder, as a sort of, informally as a secretary of that, started, and you had the Joint Operations Center in these places come next, to the Navy Operations Center was there. So the Joint Operations Center started now with elements of Coast Guard, Marine Police, State Police, Fisheries, Directorate General of Shipping, all those authorities coming in. The Navy itself started what is called the Sagar Prahari Bal, which is, a force, a little like the Rashtriya Rifles, but of course the scale is much lesser. A small bunch of some 400-500 sailors who were put on specially purchased interceptor craft, which would be doing this sort of last mile. The last mile between sea and land, which is usually very busy. Your fisher folks, your this one, your naval ships. So that's like a mela. So to ensure greater surveillance of that, the Sagar Prahari Bal came into being, to also guard your offshore assets, then you certainly have enhanced your surveillance coverage, there is no doubt. The Navy and Coast Guard both have more ships, more aircraft, constantly keeping surveillance of these places, exchanging information. Our fusion centers now are able to get much more and more of this information put together. Also, if you know, recently about 2 years ago, the country appointed its first National Maritime Security Coordinator, Vice Admiral Ashok Kumar, who had been formerly the Vice Chief of Naval Staff, was appointed as the National Maritime Security Coordinator to be with the government and at the apex level in Delhi harmonize all the maritime security initiatives, advise the government on what needs to be done and things like that.
Who is this?
Vice Admiral Ashok Kumar, So I would think that many things have happened since then for the better. And the chances of any such occurrence happening, at least theoretically, is greatly reduced.
Yeah.
Having said that, you must understand that maritime security, like I said, constantly a work in progress, and the sea is a fluid medium. So you can't say that this will not happen. Sometime, someplace, and not just we, various countries. I mean, in a different context, what happened in 9/11, what happened recently when Hamas attacked, because antagonist has to succeed just once. It's like a bowler, he has to take a wicket. The batsman has to succeed all the time. So a defending country has to succeed all the time. So no defense is 200% impregnable. So there will be, but you just got to get better at the game. And God forbid if such an event happens, then the country should have the power to respond and punish in a way, which again I think there is probably, without getting too political about these issues, and this is just for this one, I think there is probably greater resolve now to show that if such a thing happens, we will deliver punishment at a place and time of our choosing.
So you say we should have retaliated after Bombay.
See, I would personally suggest we should have retaliated, but I also respect the viewpoint which says that perhaps showing restraint was also a good option.
Yeah.
And I think Navy has been in the forefront. See, all of these take time. 75 years is too short a time for Navy to do too many things. So now that will take me to the second part. After 71 war, it's not sailing alone. There were so many things. I think the most important thing that the Navy did right from the 60s was start its project of building in India. 59 or 60 we built the first ship. 60 is the date. Some people are dating it back to 59. Small ship, a seaward defense boat, Ajay. 64 we built the first survey ship. Then we laid the keel for the Leanders. By 72 or 73 we commissioned the Leander, the first name. And 70s to 80s we had the first big warship platforms from Nilgiri to Vindhyagiri. Then you built the Godavari class, which were the first Indian design. Then lots of designs in between, the Kukri class corvette, cadet training ship, all that ending in INS Delhi. So from 1960, but with particular impetus, with the confidence that you get after the war, the Navy has gone hugely into. So today, except for 2 ships, I think the chief recently said there are 53 or 63 ships in order, we can get those figures. Out of that, 61 are being built in India. Only 2 are being built abroad. Just to give you perspective, we all are very happy that India has Rafales. Indian Air Force has Rafales. But what is Rafale? It's a French aircraft. Okay? But look at all our ships. They're being built in India. Okay. So, I think and that is where Navy has played a transformative role in very many ways. For example, maybe you do a Google search on this, but I believe from being a net importer of warship grade steel, now we are a net exporter of warship grade steel, because there was an impetus to make warship grade steel as you started building warships in the country. The huge amount of SMEs and MSMEs that get employment when you start making things in India. Huge amount of local employment that you generate when you start taking big shipbuilding projects. So all that is a national good, in which Navy is actively participating. So apart from sailing and yachting and this one, I think one of the biggest areas of development has been the Navy's role as a spearhead of Atmanirbharta, self-reliance. And as I keep saying this, and this is where my late and good friend TRG comes in, INS Delhi, which I referenced in 1997, was the 75th ship built in India, 75th warship or thereabouts, at a time when India had not designed its own car.
Yeah, right.
The Tata Indica happened in Jan 98, 2 months after the INS Delhi. Okay, so we produced our first indigenous car much later.
Yeah.
So just as an aside, when I brought, when INS Delhi came here, immediately after commissioning, we were going to Malaysia for the Langkawi International Show. So we stopped by in Kochi because that time Delhi was cock of the town and everyone was visiting and all. So Gopal, as editor of Week, had visited. That's when I told Gopal, I said, yaar, tum log media mein you celebrate this, normal celebrities. This is such a humongous achievement, why don't you write about it? So Gopal started his column. He was always toying with the idea of writing. He started his column referencing this conversation and talking of INS Day. So shipbuilding and indigenization and being the making in India, we were doing that right from 60s. The other great area of activity, since Navy seas are multilateral mediums and ocean, because unlike land where you are bilaterally, the person on the other side is your antagonist, your adversary, your enemy. In the sea, your enemy is one amongst the 10,000 people there. So it's a bilateral. When you go into other ports and all that, you are in conversation. You're talking to people of other countries. So that makes Navy and naval ships ideal for diplomacy. So the Indian Navy has become one of the greatest vectors of India's maritime diplomacy over the last. Again, this is intrinsic to the Navy, so it's been there right since 75 years. But you need big ships, you need them in substantial numbers to go out. You need institutional mechanisms. Admiral Arun Prakash, as the CNS, set up several directorates in naval headquarters. You need the rest of the country to recognize this. So slowly over a period of time, the foreign policy establishment, defense ministries are all realizing this. Then Navy has hosted big ticket events like International Fleet Reviews, Milan, which has huge, wonderful attendance. Then this information sharing that we do through. So essentially, Indian Navy ships or officers or people are engaging with some foreign navy or involved in some foreign navy or having a port visit in some foreign country now almost on a daily or a weekly basis. If for example you did a scan today and said there would always be some Indian Navy ship in some port or some far seas, some port abroad, or visiting somewhere or doing some activity or exercising with some country. Okay, so specific to what you said again, yes, we started joint exercises with other countries, and remember, joint military exercises with other countries always means that now you're reaching a higher level of understanding. You will not want to exercise because all said and done you are showing some of your procedures, some of your capabilities, some of your thing. So you do it with only people you have a certain level of trust.